Hello, excuse me, welcome, willkommen, bienvenue, keep me la falcha, etc., 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 etc. I'm trying to get all my European in before we go. Uh, as I record this, we're still in the European Union, but by the time you've actually watched it, we may not be. Who knows? Such is the way of the crazy world we live in. I'm not going to get into it because I don't know anything about it. I don't watch the news and I can help it. But here we go. What we'll get into is this bottle. What is it? Well, it's Springbank 10-year-old from Cambeltown, and it's a sad day, whiskey friends, because as you can see, there's precious little left in it. And it's a sad day because I really like this whiskey. Springbank is down there in Cambeltown in the Kintyre Peninsula on the west coast of Scotland. And there's another two words I will introduce you to if you're new to the whiskey world. This reel here are bottle kill. That is a bottle kill. Not two words that I'm particularly fond of, as you can guess. Springbank Distillery, as I say, down there in Cambeltown, and is a family-run distillery. Yet again, a bit of a rare thing. Same as actually the last review I did in Glenfarclas, it's family-run distillery, but Springbank do everything in-house, from the malting of the barley to right through to the labelling and packaging of the bottles. Everything's done in there, and I mean, in fairness, they actually charge maybe a wee bit more for their whiskey, but you can see where the money has been into it. So I, for one, certainly don't mind spending it because, as I said, I've had this before, as you can see, and it is a sad day. I will replace this. Of course I'll replace it, but like one's first kiss, you never forget. This was my first Springbank. I've had this bottle almost a year, and I've managed to stretch it out this long. Some of that, probably a good third of this bottle went to samples, people and whatnot, but the next bottle I will be getting and I will see to. So you've seen me just pouring that. It hasn't had long to sit in the glass. So probably I'll let it sit for longer. In fairness, I've got notes here, my tasting notes. I don't know. Oh, I will actually give it a little longer in the glass because I was going to tell you a little story about Cambeltown down there. There are 3 distilleries in Cambeltown. There were only 2, and as such, the powers that are Scotch whisky, we're going to stop recognising Cambeltown as a region of Scotch whisky. So Springbank Distillery and the Mitchell family opened another distillery, then giving them 3 distilleries in Cambeltown now. We have Springbank, Glengyle, which was the one that the Mitchell family opened, and which produces it's gone. It'll come back to me. It's completely gone what they produce, the whiskey that they produce. And Glen Scotia is the 3rd distillery. So now this keeps Cambeltown, which was once a very, very abundant Scotch whisky producing region, now just comes back to Kilkerran. Kilkerran is the one that Glengyle produced. It's now back to just the 3 distilleries in Cambeltown, but it's still there, still recognised as a whisky producing region in Scotch whisky. And Springbank put out an awful lot of whisky, but as I say, it's all made in-house, so production levels maybe aren't as high or as big as some of the bigger business directed distilleries. They put out this, the Springbank named, which is somewhere between the other 2, excuse me, the other 2 which they produce, which are Hazelburn, which is quite a soft, unpeated, completely unpeated whiskey. So you Hazelbird's unpeated. Springbank has a proportion of peated whiskey in there, which you get into once you actually try it. There's definitely something there, and yet again, it's gone. Long Row, it's back. Long Row's the third, which is their excuse me, which is their peated whiskey. So Hazelburn, Springbank, Long Row, and as I say, they also really are putting out the Kilkerran down there in the Glengyle distillery. So what have we got in my last dram? Now, in fairness, I would guarantee that if I was drinking this from here, it would taste different as to what I'm drinking down here. Because as I say, this is, not only has it been a year in this bottle almost, but dear knows how long it's sat before that. And I mean, this has actually sat for quite a while. What I have done is cut myself a little sample of it out, but not much more than this, into a sample bottle. And when I get to the bottom of my next bottle of it, I'll try it again. Because you find that with distilleries which don't produce in a high level, that their whiskies will tend to change slightly from barrel to barrel, from bottle to bottle, from batch to batch, probably I suppose is the best way to explain it. So by the time I get to the bottom of my next bottle, I'll be drinking out of what's a completely different batch. So I want to know whether it's different slightly, whether it changes at all. So I'll look forward to that, and I may let you know at the time. As I say, I've got my notes in front of me here. On the nose, hint of peat. Peat's definitely there. But if you're not a peat fan, you'll probably notice it more than even me. I like my peated whiskey, so this doesn't actually offend my nose the same, because I can cope with the peat. This, of course, bottled at 46%, so it's a good level. Springbank bottle everything base level 46% ABV, natural colour, non-chill filtered. It's good looking whiskey because it's non-chill filtered. It's almost starting to haze already a little without water even in it. Say hint of peat, fresh tropical fruit, barley, sugar, pear drops. Pear drops, if you don't know, are a candy which we have here in the UK. Very sharp, very they do taste of. They're not really strong pear, but they're just really sharp, very sugary. But this isn't overly sugary. Sharp and tangy, lemon and pineapple. And almost a dusty malt sensation of it. I wouldn't say it's really musty or anything like that there, but there is just a dusty malt sensation of it. Great nose, very, very great volume on the nose. As I say, quite a sharp tang. It would remind me on a lot of Highland whiskies, which I find have that sharp citrusy thing going on in them. Almost sherbet, like lemon sherbet. Into the palate. Peat's definitely there, but it's in the background. The peat is definitely there, background. But the palate's rich, sweet and sour almost. Nice broad spread of heat and depth, and a slight hint of vegetation, but still that bright tropical fruit. Very good, very good. The peat is almost a base to it. It almost builds from the peat. You would say the base, the peat is here. It's definitely there, but it's not overpowering it. there's almost building blocks of sweet tropical fruit, as I said. Once you've coated the palate, the citrus tends to tone down on the nose, it's not as noticeable. Finish is medium to long. It does like to hang around. Chili. It's a chili heat comes with it, but not unpleasant by any means. It's definitely. Now that's neat. As I say, this is bottled at 46%. It can stand some water. I'm going to give it a good. No, I'll give it about half. It's about half a teaspoonful, just to see what that does. It might, as I say, because this is unchill filtered, you might find that it will start to cloud quite quickly. I've always noticed that with Springbank. It does tend to cloud, which I do not, as I've said before, have an issue with. If it clouds, it clouds. It doesn't make it a bad whiskey. It's a great colour. Very natural colour. The water, it's weird because the peat now I'm getting like a lightly peated whiskey would do, that the peat's actually now working on my palate at the back, and it's the one thing that's staying where everything else is starting to fade off a little. The peat is still hanging around. Yeah, now the water's started to settle in there a bit. The volume is actually turned up on the nose, which you will find whether you're new. Well, obviously, if you're not new to whiskey, you know that adding a little water isn't necessary. Well, it's naturally thinning the product, but what you're doing is opening it up. You're breaking up those oils and letting more stuff out, more fragrances, more sensations. So the volume has turned up in the nose, but the peat seems to have sort of almost settled out a bit, and now that fresh tropical fruit seems to want to come forward again. Yeah. Yeah, the water seems to just round off the edges a little. It tones down that chili heat. The whole experience seems to gather pace more, and it becomes more fulfilling almost. The nose is still, as I say, that fruit's still there. The peat, as I say, has definitely. And I actually have it here, just looking over my notes again, which I hadn't seen a moment ago, that the finish does become more smoky over time, and it does. Where it was peat before, as I say, now it turns to smoke. I should say this is finished in bourbon and sherry casks, but there's very little sherry influence on it, I would say personally. It's just a very good, honest, well-made whiskey, in my opinion. And one, as I say, I will always have in my collection. In fact, so good is it, I'm going to give this Springbank 10-year-old 9.5 out of 10. It is quality whiskey in my opinion. I know there's those out there that don't like Springbank. The 10-year-old anyway, they maybe like other Springbanks. I've had this versions of the hazel burn, versions of the long row, I've had this, the 12, the 15 and the 21, and I hope to get to reviewing all of them at some point. 21, I would have to say, is one of the best whiskey experiences, if not the best whiskey experience I've had. Unfortunately, it was only one dram in a bar. You know, I would love a bottle of it. At some point, I maybe have one. But in my opinion, Springbank are one of, if not the best Scotch distillery out there. They make a great quality product, and I think there's something about the fact that it's family owned and all made in house that just makes it that bit even better. You know, that it just adds almost that personal touch to it. Finishing up on that, then they're starting, you know, this has been in now for a while, the water's in there, it's starting to all settle down a bit. It's all starting to marry up. Still sweet, fresh, well rounded. You just know there's effort put in there, and whoever has made this knows what they're doing. So I'm going to leave this one at that and say thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for your continued support. And Springbank, 10-year-old, as I say, 9.5 out of 10. That's not a bad result for it. Leave it at that. Cheers. See you later. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.